Thank you for turning to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at low-level encounters for your brand new first-level party. We're going to pull our monsters out of the monster manual today. We're going to stay with this book just because this is a nice basic book and there's a lot of good low-level encounters in here. We're going to take a look at what constitutes a decent encounter for a brand new party and what could be overwhelming for a brand new party. I also want to mention I'm still doing a subscription drive, trying to get to that magical 1,000 on YouTube. It's been going great so far. I want to thank everybody. But I'm still finding over half my views come from non-subscribers. So come on in. We talk about games. If there are games you want to see on the channel, if it's something I have access to and familiar with, and that's a lot of games, by the way, yeah, I'd be interested in taking a look. I've also read some new games that people have requested for the channel. So I'll take a look at just about anything. But I will give my honest opinion, so be ready for that. And I do have a Patreon running now, and I'm going to announce, or I am announcing right now, that I have decided on a reward. One of the rewards is going to be a recurring dungeon that I'll be doing for AD&D First Edition. This will be an original dungeon, one I have written, and it's going to come out as kind of a serial. So you're going to get so many rooms this time, so many rooms that time. I haven't decided exactly on how much and what the distribution will be, but that's definitely one of the Patreon things I'm looking at, or I'm going to be doing. Another one I'm looking at is developing a planet for Traveler and kind of doing a deep dive into the planet itself. Right now, I don't know which of my Patreons prefer D&D, which prefer Traveler, or maybe some other game. So I would need to know that. I'm trying to kind of customize it, and I don't know if it would be, D&D one month, Traveler the next, or maybe an offering of D&D and Traveler in the same month. I haven't decided that yet. That's going to depend on the workload that this represents, which, by the way, could be significant. So please take a look at the Patreon if you can help out there. Subscribe if you can help out there. That both would be great. But today, low-level monster encounters out of the Monster Manual for your brand new AD&D campaign. A quick note here, I realized as I was editing this video that actually made a 5% error in both examples because I didn't count the number on which they hit. So the fighter would hit an 11, that would be hitting on 50% of the time. So minor glitch there that doesn't change substantially my numbers. I liked the video, and for reasons I'm not going to be able to reshoot it in a timely fashion. So I'm going to let the video go as it is. Just be aware of that minor hiccup. Otherwise, my numbers stay pretty true. So that's it. My apologies for being human, but that happens. All right, we're going to start out today with orcs. Because, yeah, orcs. I thought I had gotten one past my players, but for the last 20 years or so, my brand new first level campaigns, with one exception, have started out as the very first encounter as being orcs. And I thought my players hadn't noticed that. So I kind of boasted about that the other day. And they kind of laughed and said, we noticed. So that one's on me. But I like orcs as my beginning, my opening thing, or kind of my good luck charm for a brand new campaign. I just find that orcs are the baseline D&D monster for me. When I'm starting a brand new first level campaign, I just like to have orcs out there. They just kind of equalize things. So I did a little math on an orc encounter, and I'm going to use this to illustrate. First off, I'm going to go through the orc's basic stats, which is armor class 6, move of 9 inches, 1 hit dice. So they're going to average, they're going to be an average of 5 hit points. And they're going to get 1 attack per round and 1 to 8 or by weapon type. Now, I just generally will go with the 1 to 8 in a brand new encounter. If they're firing bows or using short swords, I'll change that, of course. But for today's purposes, it's going to be 1 to 8. So I'm going to do a little calculation here, and this is going to involve math. I'm going to let you in on a secret, but it's not a secret. All of D&D is math. Everything in this game is percentages. We add some variety to it, but by the end of the day, it's still math, it's still percentages. So I've gone ahead and I've broken down what one orc can do in one round of combat. So orcs, looking at the chart, if an orc is fighting a fighter with an armor class of 5, he will be hitting on a natural 14. He won't have any bonuses, so it's just going to be a natural 14, which means he'll be hitting 30% of the time. So roughly 1 shot in every 3. By the way, Don't pin me down on to the decimal. I'm rounding in this. This is just for demonstration only. So I'm hitting 30% of the time, and my average damage on a die 8 is 5. I know it's a 4.5. I'm rounding to 5 for the purpose of this video. So then I calculate 30% of 5 points. That comes out to be 1.5. So if I am fighting a first level fighter who has, in my campaign, they always get maximum hit points at first level. So that's a 10 hit point fighter. I'm not going to be going into anything with exceptional constitutions for purposes of this today. He's just going to have 10 points. So if my orc is averaging 1.5 points of damage per round, it would take my orc 7 rounds to do 10.5 points of damage. That fighter's going to be on his feet for 7 rounds. That's a long time. Or he'll be on his feet for 6. The orc will drop him in the 7th. It's a long time for the orc to have to stand there swinging away at a fighter, especially because the fighter will have some advantages the orc won't have. So I'm going to go over again real quick. I'm going to hit the orc numbers, and then I'm going to show the fighter and the advantages that a player character gets. So again, the orc is hitting on a natural 14 to hit AC 5. He's only hitting 30% of the time. He's doing 1 to 8 points of damage, which is going to average out to 5 points of damage. So we take that 5 points, and he only hits, remember, 30% of the time. So 5 points, 30% of 5 points is 1.5 points. 1.5 points times 7 equals 10.5 points of damage. It's going to average that orc 7 rounds to drop my fighter. So now we're going to take a look at the fighter. The fighter is going to be attacking the orc. The fighter, looking at the chart, is going to need a natural 14 to hit on armor class 6. That's the orc's armor class. But my fighter is going to have a few advantages. He's going to be +2 for his strength. I've given him +2, +4 damage for his strength. And I'm going to give him +1 for weapon specialization, and that'll also be +2 damage. Okay, so I'm looking at that, and now my 14, I'm +2 to hit for strength and +1 to hit for specialization. My 14 drops to an 11. I'm hitting 45% of the time. Already I'm 1.5 times as good as the orc. My damage average is the same as the orcs. I'm using a longsword. The damage average is 5 points. 45% of 5 points is 2.25 points of damage. I'm almost doubling, well, I'm a lot again, the orc's average. 2.25 points per round, if the orc had 8 hit points, would take me 5 rounds or 4 rounds to drop him. But remember, I am +4 damage for strength and +2 for specialization. So I have to add that in. So my average of 2.25 points per round gains a +6, which means my average is going to be 8.25 points per round. Now, I said in the video that I did about specialization that one of the things I mourned when specialization came in 85 was the loss of my beloved orcs. As you can see, my fighter is swinging and killing an orc on average every round. Even if I max out the orc's hit points, this fighter with a +4 damage for strength and a +2 damage for specialization would be averaging 8.25 points per round. I'm going to kill an orc a round with this guy. And keep in mind, my fighter specialist here is, my longsword specialist is going to get 3 to 2 attacks per round. So he'll kill 1 orc the first round, 2 the second. Now, he won't hit each and every time. I'm strictly going by averages, but he's going to be doling out a lot of damage. So weapon specialization needed more scrutiny before it was included in the rules. That being said, we took it as written. We've played with it for 37 years of this taping, as of this taping, and I have no regrets. So what I just did there is basically calculate how many orcs I would need, how many shots from an orc it would take to drop my fighter versus how many shots from my fighter it would take to drop an orc. So what this is telling me is if it takes 7 shots from an orc to drop my fighter, then I better have more than 1 orc out there. I could put 7 out there and the averages say I'll drop him. Now, I want to discuss some anomalies for your hits. In our campaign, if you throw a natural 20, you get double weapon damage. So that would be, in this case, the fighter throwing an average of 2.5 per round. If he were to throw a 20 each and every time, that would be 4.5 per round, plus his 6 on top of that. So if a fighter were to throw a 20, natural 20 in our campaign, then throw an 8, in this example I've been using for this gentleman, he would get 8, double that to 16 for the weapon damage, plus 4 for strength is 20, plus 2 for specialization, 22 points of damage. That's on a natural 20. He only has a 5% chance of doing that. But they happen. Now my orcs, we're going to go back to my example. If I wanted to, I'm mad at this guy, I haven't liked this player for whatever reason, and I want to be sure I drop him, well, I attack him with 7 orcs. The odds say that I will drop him. If I really want to drop him, I'll attack him with 9 orcs, but I don't DM that way. But I want to make this a challenging encounter, and I've got this encounter set up, and for reasons, it's just going to be this fighter versus some orcs. Now, what I could do to make it a real challenge is I could go ahead and just say, okay, you've got 7 orcs, and there's one of you, go ahead and fight. I don't do that. But what I would do to make it a challenge is maybe I'll throw 3 orcs at him, or maybe 4. Because some of those orcs are going to land hits. And I'm going to end up doing something like 2 points to 4 points of damage to the fighter in the course of that encounter. Well, 2 points or 4 points represents 20 to 40% of his hit point total. And in this encounter, there is no cleric handy. He has no way to recoup those points. So this encounter can be pretty stiff for a first level fighter, simply by throwing 3 to 4 orcs at him. So you get the idea. I do this roughly in my head each and every time I write up for a brand new encounter. I'll just kind of take a look at these numbers. I've been doing this a very, very long time. I really don't need to write this down anymore. By the way, just for fun, I'm going to show my logic tree here. There's zoom in a little bit. Okay, I always have trouble with the zoom on this thing. So there's my fighter, his stats that I wrote up for my cheat sheet notes for this video, and there is my orc. Now, there may be a flaw in my math. I'm not saying that there isn't, and I am not a math guru by any means. I've always been pretty good naturally at percentages, and that's all this is. So if there's another formula and I'm way off, dramatically off by a full point of damage or something, yeah, I'm interested in hearing that. If it's some statistical something or other that I've missed that is, a truth in statistics that I've missed, I'm interested in that too. But if it's just that you think that my way of doing it's kind of primitive and wonky, well, that's fine. Constructive criticisms are always welcome. Constructive criticisms. So now I've gone ahead and I've given you my orc encounter. But there's not going to be just one fighter in the group. There's going to be thieves, magic users, and clerics, theoretically. Maybe a ranger. That all skews my numbers. But I can stay with my base numbers here because I know about what my orcs are going to be doing. They'll be hitting the magic user better, but they'll be hitting the cleric about the same. They'll be hitting the thief probably close to the same as they'll be hitting the fighter. That's why I chose AC 5. That's a pretty nominal armor class. And then you're saying, well, wait a minute. If the magic user has a sleep spell, and that's up to 16 monsters go to sleep with a sleep spell, he's going to get 10 orcs in that. Yes, I would do that, and I would count on that being part of the encounter if I knew the MU was taking a sleep spell, and I could limit their access to the orcs' access to attacking the player characters. In other words, if it was a situation where the player characters were fighting from a doorway into a room, and I knew that the magic user being in second rank could throw that sleep spell, safely missing his own party, but getting the orcs in the room. Or, as we've done sometimes in the past, have the fighter go in, be fighting the orcs, throw the sleep spell, and count on the fighter, have an elf go in and fight the orcs, and count on the elf's 90% immunity to sleep to keep him awake and to just drop the orcs. We've done that in the past. It's actually a pretty fun way. Again, playing with numbers. I've also seen elves fail their sleep save, which is funny as can be too. So you get the idea. So that's kind of my thought tree when I'm coming up with an encounter. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to take a look at another encounter that's a little different. And this skews the numbers a little bit. And that's going to be our good friend, the skeleton. Only armor class 7. But edged weapons, like my fighter's sword, only do half damage. And for us, that's half total damage. So my fighter's average of 8.25 points per round is going to drop to a 4 against the skeleton. So skeletons are a lot more durable against my fighter, who has that high bonus and high hit and everything. So the skeletons are going to be a bit more of an encounter. But they're going to be a little different encounter because they can be turned by the cleric. I will put skeletons in frequently, zombies also, although zombies have it being a little tougher or fun. I'll go to them in a minute. I prefer skeletons as a new thing. I like the cleric to have something to do. He can turn these. He's not just a walking mash unit. Also, the cleric, most times, is going to be wielding a blunt weapon. So, in a fight against skeletons, it kind of gives a cleric a chance to shine. So, that's one of the reasons I do it. Also, as long as we're on this page, Shriekers, great low-level encounters. They don't attack. They have 3 hit dice, armor class 7. They just shriek when something comes within 10 feet of them. Great way to call wandering monsters onto a party, and the party's got to spend a fair amount of time hacking at these things to destroy them. So gotta love a Shrieker. So now we're going to go take a look at a zombie. If you don't like your party, throw a white at them at first level. Ha ha ha, that was a joke. Okay, zombies. Armor class 8, terrible armor class. 2 hit dice, that's better. So they're going to average 10 hit points. Again, 1 attack and then 1 to 8 damage, but they always attack lasting around. You can't sleep a zombie, just like you can't sleep skeletons, because they're undead. Zombies are good because they are more durable, but zombies can sometimes be a little too durable at 2 hit dice, and they hit better than the skeletons would as well. Against an armor class 5, a zombie would hit on an 11. So you got to be careful with zombies as low-level monsters. They seem like they're interchangeable with skeletons. They're not. Now, we're going to go back in the book a little bit, and we're going to take a look at kobolds. Kobolds, wait a minute, they're no good. Yeah, actually, kobolds are real good. Kobolds are half hit dice monsters. They only have 1 to 4 hit points. They're armor class 7. They attack once a round for 1 to 4 points of damage. Kobolds being less than 1 hit dice monsters, if you have a fighter of more than first level, so second, third, or fourth level, the fighter gets 1 attack per round per level. So a 10th level fighter would get 10 attacks in a round against kobolds. Kobolds, you put them in numbers. You have them swarm. They're 1 to 4 points of damage. They're going to average 2.5 points on that. So something like between 2 and 3 points of damage. You're going to be hitting something like, let's see, half hit dice monster. Kobolds are going to hit AC 5 only on a 16. So you're going to be hitting 25% of the time. You're only going to be averaging about a point a round per kobold. That's a lot when you put in a bunch of kobolds, and the kobolds die pretty quickly, and again, the sleep spell comes in. So kobolds are a great low-level encounter. You just have to kind of throw the numbers up a little bit as compared to orcs. We're going to take a look at one more of my favorite early go encounters. And these are by no means exhaustive, of course. These are just ones I like to throw in early. Not a giant. Goblins. Why goblins? Well, I started in the basic rules and then went on to the box set. And some of your basic monsters were orcs, goblins, kobolds, and skeletons, and zombies. I fell in love with those. I've kind of stayed with those as kind of my core for a brand new campaign. For me, it gets the campaign off on the correct footing. I just enjoy it. Goblins are in much the same boat as the kobolds. They are 1-1 hit creatures. So they are less than 1 hit dice, so the fighter gets all his bonuses at higher levels. They do more damage at 1 to 6 points per round. So they're going to average about 3.5, call it 4 points. But again, you make it up in what you're losing in statistics, you make up in numbers. So now you've got those fighters, and you've got 3 fighters in your group, and they've gone ahead and they've all weapon specialized. And oh my goodness, how am I going to deal with this? They're way too powerful. Well, that's where the Knoll comes in. You got a Knoll at 2 hit dice, AC 5, gets 1 attack per round at 2 to 8 points of damage. So that's 2 die 4. So you're averaging 5 points again. That's a much tougher encounter. And be careful with this one, because if your thief or magic user kind of get out caught in front of a Knoll, that can be a bad day at the office for them. But Knolls are a good fallback. If you have, I jot these up often, and if the party is doing real well, they're rolling really hot, they're being kind of arrogant about it. Hey, well, these are easy monsters to kill. Well, you have those Knolls in your back pocket, and you have them ready to go too. So those are just some of the basic monsters you can throw at them. You can also throw other NPC characters at them that would give you some dwarves and some elves. They come into conflict with either group for reasons. You could hit them with something a little bit bigger, even an owl. That could be a nice low-level encounter. At AC 4, you're going to be more concerned with driving the owl away than actually being able to drop it at low level. But again, you probably can generate enough damage to do it. So these are just some nice low-level monsters. Piercer, always great in a natural cavern. What's not to love? They're AC 3. They're 1 to 4 hit dice. They just drop down and do damage, and then if you are still there, they get to chew you. If not, they really don't get to move. So Pixies would seem to be a good low-level encounter. Be careful. They have lots of powers. They can be much more than a first-level encounter. So that's all I've got to say about brand new first-level encounters today. That's just kind of my thought tree when I'm starting up a dungeon. I like to stay with the basics I started with, 40 years ago. And but I do like to take a look at the statistics a little bit. By the way, the statistics do hold for higher levels. And again, you use them as a baseline against the group fighter. You could actually take your individual fighter in your group. You could break down what he'll do in a round and break down what the monster will do in a round. As long as you're using the fighter as the base, you'll be able to know, oh, this will be much worse if it's on a thief or a magic user, but maybe a little better or about the same on a cleric. But the magic user may have stone skin. They may have the armor spell, which in our campaign grants you phantom hit points. It's 8 points plus 1 per level of phantom hit points in addition to +1 armor and saving throw. I've covered that in a previous video. So there are variables once you start getting up in levels. Once your magic user's 5th level, he's throwing a fireball. If he gets the orcs in the fireball, he's going to be throwing 5 dice 6. So he's going to be averaging right around, call it 20 points of damage, actually a little over that. 20 points of damage. So now your group of orcs, even with a saving throw, is on average going to die because it's going to be 10 points of damage with their save, and they only have 8. So by 5th level, an MU can pretty much deal with a horde of orcs. Well, then you start going into staging and how you have the encounter and setting the encounter up. That'll be for another video. So that's all I've got to say today on brand new first level encounters. I'd be interested in showing some medium level encounters and maybe some upper medium level and then some high level stuff that I've used in my campaign. If you're interested in that, please let me know. I could do that as part of this series. I've got a few other ideas that are going to come before that because I'm going to stay with the low level theme for the time being. I'm going to progress these videos as my campaign would progress. So that's it for today from page 121. Please remember, I'm doing the subscription drive. I'm also doing the Patreon drive. I'm going to be initiating the free dungeon, well, not free dungeon, but the dungeon as a reward for the Patreon. And that'll be coming either in late May or very early June. So please stay tuned. And that's it. That's all I've got to say today from page 121. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.